The ship moved through the darkness of space like a small fish swimming toward a whale. Inside, Ambassador Elena Vance stood at the window and watched the massive station grow larger. The Galactic Concord station was bigger than Earth's moon. Thousands of lights covered its surface like stars trapped in metal. Ships from hundreds of different species flew around it, each one carrying beings that humanity had never imagined could exist. Elena took a deep breath. She was 53 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. 40 years ago, humanity had discovered how to travel faster than light. They had burst into the galaxy like children running into a room full of adults. And now, those adults had called them to answer for their actions. The door behind her opened. Captain Marcus Cole walked in. He was a tall man with dark skin and a soldier's posture. He had commanded warships, fought pirates, and survived 3 assassination attempts. But today, even he looked nervous. "We dock in 10 minutes, he said. "The council has sent their welcome party." Elena almost laughed. "Welcome party? That's a nice way to say armed guards." Marcus nodded. 12th Alley warriors. Full armor. Plasma rifles. They want to remind us who holds the power here. Do they? Elena turned to look at him. "For now, Captain. For now." The docking was smooth and quiet. Elena led her delegation through the airlock and into a corridor made of white stone that seemed to glow from within. The Zethali guards surrounded them immediately. They were reptilian creatures, standing 7 feet tall with scales the color of dried blood. Their eyes were yellow and cold, like the eyes of snakes. None of them spoke. They simply walked, and the humans followed. The Grand Chamber was the heart of the Galactic Concord. It was a room so large that clouds formed near its ceiling. Thousands of platforms floated in the air, each one holding representatives from different species. Some were massive creatures with dozens of eyes. Others were small beings made entirely of light. A few looked almost human, but with skin of blue or gold or silver. Elena and her team were led to a small platform at the very bottom of the chamber. Above them, 2,000 species looked down. The message was clear. Humanity was beneath them. Humanity was small. Humanity was nothing. A voice filled the chamber. It came from everywhere at once, smooth and ancient. "The representative of Earth may speak." Elena stepped forward. Her platform had no railing. One wrong step and she would fall into the darkness below. She suspected this was intentional. "I am Ambassador Elena Vance," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "I speak for the United Earth government and the 8 billion humans who call Earth their home." Silence. Then, from a platform high above, a figure made of crystal and light descended. This was Elder Speaker Kithros, the leader of the Galactic Concord. He was ancient beyond measure, a being who had watched stars die and be born again. When he spoke, his voice was like wind through broken glass. "Humanity," he said, "you have existed for a mere moment. Your species learned to walk upright while we were building empires that spanned galaxies. And yet, in your arrogance, you have expanded into territories that do not belong to you." Elena kept her face neutral. "We settled empty worlds. Worlds that no one was using. Empty?" A new voice cut through the chamber. It was harsh and filled with hatred. Elena looked up and saw a Zethali standing on a platform decorated with bones and gold. This was Lord Vexer, commander of the Zethali Dominion. "Those worlds belong to us. They have belonged to us for 1,000,000 years." "With respect," Elena said, "there were no settlements, no stations, no markers. Our ships found nothing but rock and ice. You found what we left for later." Vexer roared. "You are thieves. You are insects crawling into homes that do not belong to you." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Elena could feel the weight of 2,000 species judging her, measuring her, finding her wanting. Kithros raised a hand and silence fell again. The Council has reviewed the evidence. Humanity has established 47 colonies in the frontier rim. These systems fall within the historical territory of the HFY Dominion. Historical territory, Elena repeated. Not actual territory. Not occupied territory. The distinction is irrelevant, Kithros said. The law is clear. Junior species must respect the claims of elder civilizations. And if we refuse? The chamber went still. Elena could feel Captain Marcus tense behind her. She had just said something that no junior species had ever said before. Kithros stared at her for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was colder than space itself. Then you will be taught the consequences of defiance. He gestured, and a hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a planet. Elena recognized it immediately. It was Kepler-442b, humanity's first colony outside the solar system. 3 million people lived there. This world was once home to a species called the Voltheri, Kithros said. They too refused to obey the Council's rulings. The hologram changed. The planet's surface turned black. Cities crumbled. Oceans boiled away. In seconds, a living world became a dead rock. The Voltheri no longer exist, Kithros said. Their name is remembered only as a warning. Elena's hands trembled, but her voice did not. Is that a threat? It is a fact, Kithros replied. The Council has decided. Humanity will surrender all colonies in the frontier rim. You will accept restrictions on your technology. You will submit to guided development status. You will become what you are meant to be, a young species learning from its elders. And if we need time to consider? Kithros made a sound that might have been laughter. You have 1 rotation of this station. 6 of your hours. Use them wisely, Ambassador. When you return, you will give us your answer. The platform began to rise, carrying Elena and her team away from the chamber floor. As they ascended, she looked at the thousands of faces watching her. Some showed curiosity. Others showed contempt. A few showed something that might have been pity. None of them showed fear. They would learn. Captain Marcus leaned close as they exited the chamber. 6 hours, he whispered. That's not enough time to do anything. Elena smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. It's enough time to make a decision, Captain. I think Earth made this decision a long time ago. She walked toward their ship, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. Behind her, the Galactic Concorde continued its ancient business, confident in its power, certain of its victory. They had no idea what was coming. The communication room on the human ship was small and cold. Elena sat alone at the center table, her hands folded in front of her. On the screen before her, the faces of Earth's World Council stared back at her. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists. The most powerful humans alive. She had just finished telling them everything. The demands. The threats. The image of that dead world. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then President Chen Wei leaned forward. He was an old man with white hair and sharp eyes. He had led Earth through 2 economic collapses and a global pandemic. He was not easily frightened. Let me understand, he said slowly. They want us to abandon 47 colonies. 600 million people. Yes, sir. They want to control our technology. Limit our growth. Yes. And they showed us a dead planet as a warning. Elena nodded. The message was clear. Obey or be destroyed. General Okonkwo, head of Earth's military forces, spoke next. Her voice was steady, but Elena could see the anger in her eyes. What forces do they have? The HFY Dominion alone commands a fleet of 10,000 warships. Each one is larger than anything we've built. And they're just one species. The Council includes over 2,000 civilizations. Silence again. Elena watched the faces on the screen. She saw fear. She saw doubt. But underneath, she saw something else. Something that had kept humanity alive through ice ages and plagues and wars that should have ended them. She saw defiance. President Chun spoke again. Ambassador Vance, what do you recommend? Elena had thought about this moment for years. She had played it out in her mind 1,000 times. She knew what the smart answer was. She knew what the safe answer was, but safe had never been humanity's way. Sir, she said, 40 years ago, we reached the stars. We were alone. We were weak. We knew that one day we would meet older species who would try to control us. So we prepared. Project Titan, General Okonkwo said quietly. Yes, and Projects Prometheus, Athena, and Olympus. We built ships that look like cargo haulers, but carry weapons that no one has seen before. We created technology in secret, hidden even from our own people. We found allies in the darkness. The forgotten ones, President Chen said. Elena nodded. Species that the Council destroyed or enslaved. They've been waiting for someone to stand up. They've been waiting for us. The World Council members looked at each other. Years of secret preparation. Trillions of credits spent. Millions of people working on projects they didn't fully understand. It had all been leading to this moment. If we fight, President Chen said, millions will die. Yes, perhaps billions. Yes. And if we surrender? Elena's voice hardened. Then humanity ends. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, they will control our technology. They will limit our population. They will teach our children that humans are lesser beings, meant to serve and obey. In 1,000 years, we won't be human anymore. We'll be pets. The silence stretched on. Then, one by one, the council members spoke. No surrender, said General Okonkwo. No surrender, said the European president. No surrender, said the Asian coalition leader. One by one, every member of the World Council gave the same answer. When it was done, President Chun looked directly at Elena. You have your orders, Ambassador. Make them understand. The transmission ended. Elena sat alone in the cold room for a moment, letting the weight of the decision settle on her shoulders. Then she stood up and walked to find Captain Marcus. The 6 hours passed quickly. When Elena returned to the Grand Chamber, she found the atmosphere had changed. The platforms were fuller than before. Word had spread that humanity was being judged, and everyone wanted to watch the small species bend its knee. Elder Speaker Kithros descended from his platform, his crystal body shimmering with colors that had no names in human language. Ambassador Vance, he said, the council awaits your answer. Elena walked to the center of her platform. She looked up at the thousands of species watching her. She saw the Zethalai Lord Vexer grinning with anticipation. She saw beings of light and shadow and flesh and metal, all waiting to see humanity humiliated. She smiled. The United Earth government has reviewed your demands, she said, her voice carrying through the massive chamber. We decline. All of them. The chamber erupted. Shouts and screams in 100 different languages filled the air. Lord Vexer slammed his fist against his platform so hard that cracks appeared in the stone. You dare? He roared. You insignificant creatures dare to refuse us? Elena ignored him. She kept her eyes on Kithros. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not limit our technology. We will not become your servants. Kithros moved closer, his light growing brighter. You do not understand your position. You are one species against thousands. Your fleet is 100 ships against millions. You have nothing. Elena reached into her coat and pulled out a small metal disc. It was Earth's sigil, the symbol that marked humanity's place in the Council registry. She held it up so everyone could see. "You're right," she said. "We have nothing here." She dropped the disc. It fell into the darkness below, tumbling end over end until it disappeared. "Consider that our resignation from your council." The chamber went silent. No species had ever voluntarily left the Concord. The very concept was unthinkable. Lord Vexer found his voice first. "This changes nothing. We will burn your worlds. We will hunt your people to the last child. Your species will be forgotten." Elena turned to face him directly. "Perhaps, but you should know something about humans, Lord Vexer. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages, volcanoes, predators, diseases, asteroids, our own stupidity. Again and again, we should have died. But we didn't." She started walking toward the exit, her team falling in behind her. "You've ruled this galaxy for 3 million years by making everyone afraid. You've never met a species that wasn't already beaten before the fight began." She paused at the threshold and looked back at the assembled powers of the galaxy. "We're not afraid of you. We're not afraid of anything. And that should terrify you." Captain Marcus opened the door. Elena stepped through. The last thing she heard before it sealed behind her was Kithros' voice, cold and final. "Prepare the fleets. The humans have chosen extinction." As they walked back to their ship, Marcus spoke quietly. "They'll come for us now. Everything they have." Elena nodded. "Yes, they will. Are we ready?" Elena looked out a window at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were going about their lives, not knowing that war was coming, not knowing that their survival depended on preparations made in secret, on weapons never tested, on allies never seen. "We've been getting ready for 40 years, Captain. Let's find out if it was enough." The ship's engines roared to life, and humanity flew toward the coming storm. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Humanity had refused the council. Humanity had walked away. Humanity had chosen war. Within hours, the greatest military force in galactic history began to assemble. The Zethali Dominion called every ship from every corner of their empire. 10,000 warships, each one a mountain of metal and weapons, gathered at the edge of human space. 12 other species joined them, eager to share in the glory of crushing the upstart humans. The combined fleet numbered over 50,000 vessels. Admiral Zixtham stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Flame. He was the greatest military commander the Zeth Ali had ever produced. He had conquered 37 species in his lifetime. He had never lost a battle. This, he thought, would be his easiest victory. "Begin the advance," he ordered. The fleet moved forward, a wall of death stretching across space. Their sensors showed human territory ahead, defended by fewer than 200 ships. It was laughable. It was pathetic. It would be over in hours, but as the fleet crossed into the first human system, something strange happened. Lieutenant Crixel was the first to notice. "Admiral, our long-range sensors are failing." "Explain." "I cannot." The reading simply stopped. It is as if everything ahead of us has disappeared. Admiral Zixtham frowned. "Communication with the scout ships?" "Nothing, Admiral. They sent no distress signals. They simply went silent." A chill ran down the Admiral's spine. He had spent his life at war. He knew the feeling of a trap closing around him. "All ships, halt advance. Raise shields to maximum." The order went out, but before the fleet could respond, every light on every ship flickered and died in an instant. 50,000 warships lost power. Engines stopped. Weapons went cold. Life support systems struggled to maintain air. Emergency lights cast red shadows across panicked faces as crews fumbled in the darkness. Admiral Zixton floated in the zero gravity of his dead bridge, surrounded by officers who had never known fear until this moment. "What is happening?" someone screamed. The Admiral had no answer. In 300 years of warfare, he had never seen anything like this. It was impossible. Technology did not simply stop working. Hours passed. The great fleet drifted helplessly in the void, warriors reduced to passengers on dead ships. Some crews managed to restore basic power using backup systems. Others were not so lucky. On 17 ships, life support failed completely. Thousands died in the cold darkness of space. Then, just as suddenly as it had vanished, power returned. Lights came on. Systems rebooted. Engines hummed back to life. Across 50,000 ships, terrified crews scrambled to understand what had happened. Admiral Zixton was the first to check his communication system. What he found made his blood run cold. A message had been embedded in every computer core, written in every language the galaxy knew. "We asked for peace. You chose war. This was your only warning." The Admiral stared at the words for a long time. Then he ordered a full diagnostic of every ship in the fleet. The results came back within hours. The humans had not attacked them. They had simply turned everything off. Every shield, every weapon, every engine, every sensor, all at once, across an entire fleet, without firing a single shot. And they had done it from so far away that no Zethali sensor had detected anything. "Lord," Vexer's voice crackled through the communication channel. He was on a different ship, his flagship having suffered complete life support failure during the blackout. 300 of his personal guards had died. "This changes nothing," he snarled. "They caught us by surprise. It will not happen again." "My lord," Admiral Zixton said carefully, "we lost 17 ships. Not to weapons fire. Not to battle damage. We lost them to a power outage that should have been impossible. Perhaps we should reconsider? Vexer's voice rose to a scream. "I will not be humiliated by animals. You will advance, Admiral. You will burn their worlds. You will bring me the head of their ambassador." The communication ended. Admiral Zixton sat in silence, thinking about the message. Thinking about what kind of species could do what the humans had just done. In his 3 centuries of war, he had learned one thing above all others. Never underestimate an enemy who was smarter than you expected, but he had his orders. "All ships," he said quietly, "advance." The fleet moved forward again, slower this time, more cautious. Scouts ranged ahead, sending constant signals back to the main force. For hours, nothing happened. Then days. The humans seemed to have vanished. On the 5th day, they reached the first human colony. It was a small world called New Hope, home to 4 million people. From orbit, the Admiral could see cities, farms, and factories. He could see people going about their lives, looking up at the sky filled with enemy ships. "Target the largest city," Lord Vexer commanded. He had transferred to the Eternal Flame, determined to witness the destruction personally. Show them what defiance costs. Admiral Zixton hesitated. Something felt wrong. The planet had no defenses that his sensors could detect. No orbital stations. No weapons platforms. No fleet protecting it. It was too easy. "Fire," Vexer ordered. The weapons officer reached for the controls. Every alarm on the ship screamed at once. "Contact!" Someone shouted. Ships appearing. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. Admiral Zixton spun to look at the tactical display. All around his fleet, vessels were appearing out of nothing. They had no engine signatures. They cast no heat. One moment empty space, the next moment ships. "That's impossible," Vexer whispered. No cloaking technology is that good. But there they were. Human ships. Not the small, primitive vessels the Council's intelligence had described. These were something else entirely. They were beautiful and terrifying, covered in weapons that glowed with strange light, and there were so many of them. Covered in weapons that glowed with strange light, and there were so many of them. Covered in weapons, so many of them. Communication signal cut through the chaos. A human face appeared on every screen in the fleet. It was a woman, old and calm, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. Admiral Zixton recognized her from the Council recordings. Ambassador Elena Vance. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I have a message for your fleet. You have entered human space. You have threatened our people. You have come to destroy our worlds." She paused, and in that silence, the Admiral felt something he had not felt in 300 years. Fear. This is your chance to leave. Take it, because if you fire one shot at our people, we will show you what humanity is truly capable of. And I promise you, Admiral, you will not like what you see. The transmission ended. Lord Vexor was shaking with rage. "It's a bluff. They cannot match our numbers. Fire. Fire everything." Admiral Zixton looked at the tactical display. He looked at the human ships surrounding his fleet. He thought about the blackout. He thought about the warning. He thought about the look in that woman's eyes. Then he gave the order that would haunt him for the rest of his life. All ships, open fire. The battle for the galaxy had begun. The Zethali fleet opened fire with every weapon they had. Plasma beams lit up the darkness. Missiles flew toward the human ships in clouds of death. The combined firepower could have cracked the planet in half. It did nothing. The human ships didn't dodge. They didn't retreat. They simply let the weapons come. And when the plasma beams and missiles reached them, they vanished, swallowed by shields that glowed blue and gold, absorbing energy that should have been enough to melt mountains. Admiral Zixton watched in disbelief as his fleet's full assault disappeared like rain falling into an ocean. "How?" he whispered. Then the humans fired back. Their weapons made no sound. There was no flash of light, no beam of plasma. One moment, the Zethali battleship glory of the Dominion existed. The next moment, it was gone. Not destroyed, not exploded. Simply erased from existence, along with its crew of 12,000. Across the fleet, ships began to vanish. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, each one disappearing in absolute silence. The crews had no time to scream, no time to pray. They were there, and then they were not. Lord Vexor grabbed Admiral Zixton by the throat. "Do something. You are supposed to be the greatest military mind in the Dominion. Do something." The Admiral looked at the tactical display. In 3 minutes, he had lost 2,000 ships. The human fleet had not lost a single one. "Retreat," he said quietly. "What?" "All ships, emergency retreat. Get us out of here." For once, Vexor did not argue. The fear in his eyes was too great. The surviving ships turned and ran. Their engines burned at maximum power, pushing toward the edge of the system. Behind them, the human fleet followed, but slowly, almost lazily. They were not chasing. They were herding as the broken fleet fled. A new signal appeared on every ship. Another human face. This time, it was a man, wearing a military uniform. His name appeared at the bottom of the screen. Admiral Chun Wei, Commander of Earth Defense Forces. "Lord Vexor," he said calmly, "I wanted to introduce myself. I believe you threatened to burn our worlds and hunt our children." Vexor said nothing. His scales had turned pale, a sign of extreme terror in his species. "I have good news and bad news," Admiral Chun continued. "The good news is that we're going to let your surviving ships leave this system. We have no interest in slaughter. Unlike some species, we don't enjoy killing. And the bad news? Admiral Zixthan asked. Chun's expression darkened. The bad news is that we've decided to send a message. You attacked a planet of innocent people. 4 million civilians who had never harmed anyone. For that, there must be a response. The screen changed. It now showed the Zethali home system, billions of light years away. At its center burned the ancient star that had warmed Vexor's ancestors for 1 million years. Project Prometheus, Chun said. We spent 30 years developing it. It's a weapon that can destabilize any star in the galaxy from any distance. We didn't want to use it. We hoped we would never have to. The star in the image flickered. Its surface rippled like water disturbed by a stone. That, Chun said, was as touching your sun. A tiny adjustment. Enough to create a solar flare that will reach your innermost planet in approximately 6 hours. Vexor made a sound that might have been a sob. His innermost planet was the industrial heart of his empire. 80 billion Zethali lived there. The flare will not destroy the planet, Chun continued. It will scorch the surface. Kill perhaps 100 million. Destroy most of your orbital infrastructure. A painful wound, but not a fatal one. He leaned forward, and his eyes were cold as empty space. That was for threatening our children. If you come back, if you attack our people again, we will not hold back. We will collapse your star completely. Your entire species will freeze to death in the darkness. The transmission ended. Lord Vexor fell to his knees. The greatest warrior of the Zethali Dominion, conqueror of worlds, terror of the galaxy, knelt on the floor of a damaged ship and wept. Admiral Zixthan stood over him, feeling nothing but a strange, hollow emptiness. 300 years of victory. 300 years of believing his species was superior, invincible, destined to rule forever. All of it, dust. The surviving ships limped back to Concord space. Of the 50,000 vessels that had set out, fewer than 20,000 returned. The rest had been erased, scattered, or abandoned when their crews lost hope. The news spread faster than any fleet could travel. Humanity had won. Not just won, but humiliated the greatest military force in galactic history. The blackout. The impossible shields. The weapons that erase ships without a trace. And worst of all, Project Prometheus. The weapon that could kill stars. But the humans weren't finished. 1 week after the battle, a broadcast went out across every communication network in the galaxy. It was Ambassador Elena Vance, standing in a room filled with beings from a dozen different species. Species that the Council had enslaved, exploited, or nearly destroyed. To the Galactic Concord, she said, "You called us animals. You called us insects. You told us to kneel or die. We chose a third option." The camera pulled back, showing more and more figures. Hundreds of representatives from races that have been crushed under the Council's boot for millions of years. These are the forgotten ones, the species you tried to erase from history. For 40 years, we've been working together in secret. Building, planning, waiting. She smiled. And it was the smile of someone who had just turned the tables on a bully. The Zethali Dominion has surrendered. 6 more species have withdrawn from the Council in the past 3 days. Your alliance is crumbling. Behind her, a map appeared showing human space. It had grown. 12 new systems blinked with human markers. Territories that had been claimed in the power vacuum left by the retreating Council forces. We don't want to rule the galaxy, Elena said. We don't want revenge. We want something that your Council has never offered. True equality. Every species, young or old, powerful or weak, treated with the same respect. She clasped her hands in front of her. Elder Speaker Kithros, you have 1 rotation to respond. Accept our terms, and we can build something better together. Refuse, and we will keep taking your systems. one by one, until there's nothing left of your precious Concord but a memory. The broadcast ended in the grand chamber of the Galactic Concorde. Kithros stood alone. The platforms around him were half empty. Species that had been loyal members for millions of years had simply stopped attending. Some had fled to human protection. Others had declared neutrality, waiting to see which way the wind would blow. The crystal being who had ruled the galaxy now faced a choice that no elder speaker had ever faced before. Admit defeat, or watch everything crumble. Outside, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the drama unfolding below. But somewhere out there, humanity was watching, waiting, ready for whatever came next. The universe would never be the same. The grand chamber was almost empty now. Where 2,000 species had once gathered to rule the galaxy, fewer than 300 remained. The floating platforms hung in darkness, abandoned by civilizations that had decided the old order was finished. Elder Speaker Kithros stood at the center of the chamber, his crystal body dim and flickering. He had not slept in weeks. He had not eaten. He had simply watched as everything he had built across 3 million years fell apart. The doors opened, and Ambassador Elena Vance walked in. She was alone. No guards, no delegation. Just one human woman walking into the heart of what had been the most powerful organization in the galaxy. She moved with the confidence of someone who knew they had already won. Kythr Os watched her approach. He had studied humans since the day they first appeared on the galactic stage. He had dismissed them as primitive, emotional, weak. He had been wrong about everything. Ambassador, he said. His voice echoed in the empty chamber. You have come to receive our surrender. Elena shook her head. I've come to offer you a choice. She reached the central platform and looked up at the ancient being before her. He was larger than she had remembered, a tower of light and crystal that had witnessed the birth and death of countless civilizations. Once, that sight would have terrified her. Now, she saw only a tired-old creature who had forgotten what it meant to grow. The Galactic Concorde is finished, she said. Everyone knows it. You can fight on, watch more of your members abandon you, and eventually face the final collapse alone. Or you can help us build something better. Kithros made a sound that might have been laughter. Build something better? You destroyed our fleet. You demonstrated a weapon that can kill stars. You allied with species we thought were extinct. And now you want to build something better? Yes. Why should I trust you? Elena thought about the question. She thought about Earth's history. The wars, the empires, the conquests. She thought about all the times humans had won through violence and then failed to create lasting peace. You shouldn't trust me, she said finally. Trust has to be earned. But I can tell you what we're offering. She pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared between them, showing a document covered in text. We call it the Galactic Compact. It's not perfect. Nothing made by living beings ever is. But it's built on principles that your Concord never accepted. She began to walk around the hologram, pointing to different sections. First, no more junior species designations. Every civilization that achieves spaceflight is treated as an equal, regardless of how young or small they are. Second, territorial claims must be based on actual occupation, not historical assertions. If you're not using a system, you don't own it. Kithros's light flickered. These rules would dissolve half the agreements that hold the galaxy together. Good. Those agreements were built on exploitation. They deserve to dissolve. She continued. Third, a mutual defense treaty. Every member protects every other member. The strong don't prey on the weak anymore. Fourth, open technology sharing. No more keeping advanced species powerful by keeping everyone else primitive. You would give away the secrets that won you this war? Eventually, yes. Not today. Not tomorrow. But in time, once we've established that no one is going to use that technology for conquest. The goal isn't to rule the galaxy, Kithros. The goal is to make sure no one rules it. Ever again. The ancient being was silent for a long moment. Around them, the empty chambers seemed to grow colder, darker. The ghosts of 3 million years of history hung in the air. Finally, Kithros spoke. I have a question for you, Ambassador. One that has troubled me since you walked out of this chamber. Elena nodded. Ask? How? Your species is 40 years old in galactic terms. We have been here for millions of years. We have technology beyond your imagination, resources beyond your comprehension. How did you defeat us? Elena smiled, and there was sadness in that smile. You want to know the secret? Yes. She looked up at him, and for the first time, Kithros saw something in her eyes that he recognized. It was the look of a survivor. The look of someone who had faced the end of everything and refused to surrender. The secret, she said softly, is that we were never afraid of you. Kithros waited for more. There had to be more. That's it, Elena continued. Every species you conquered, every civilization you crushed, they were all afraid. They saw your power, your history, your numbers, and they gave up before the fight even started. They accepted that they couldn't win. She stepped closer to him. Humans don't think that way. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We survived ice ages by walking across frozen continents. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived wars that burned cities to ash. We almost destroyed ourselves a dozen times. Our voice grew stronger. Every time the universe told us to die, we refused. Every time we should have given up, we got angry instead. That's what you never understood about us. We don't surrender to impossible odds. We fight harder. Kithros' light dimmed almost to nothing. For the first time in his endless existence, he felt something strange. Something that might have been admiration. And if we had won? He asked quietly. If your weapons had failed, your allies had abandoned you, your colonies had burned. Elena's answer came without hesitation. Then we would have fought from the ruins. We would have taught our children to fight. We would have waited 100 years, 1,000 years, however long it took. And eventually, we would have found a way to win. She held out her hand. But we don't have to be enemies. Help us build something new. Be part of a galaxy that moves forward instead of standing still. It's not too late. Kithros looked at her hand. Such a small thing. 5 fingers, soft skin, fragile bone. The hand of a species that had existed for an eye blink compared to his own. But that hand had changed everything. Slowly. Carefully, he extended a tendril of light and touched her fingers. Very well. Ambassador. Let us build something better. 100 years later, the galaxy was a different place. The Galactic Compact had grown to include over 3,000 species. Wars still happened, but they were small and quickly resolved. The ancient hatreds were fading, replaced by something that might, in time, become true peace. On Earth, children learned about the day humanity left the talks. They learned about Elena Vance and Chen Wei and all the others who had stood against the darkness. They learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision that something else mattered more, and in the deepest reaches of space, in academies and schools on 1,000 different worlds, young beings of every shape and size learned a simple truth that their ancestors had never understood. The smallest fire could burn the brightest. The youngest species could change everything. And those who had been forged in darkness were never afraid of the night. The universe had learned to respect humanity. And humanity had learned that respect was only the beginning.